Namaskar. Myself Dr. Deepti Bish, Professor, Department of Kaya Chikitsa, Faculty of Ayurveda Sciences, Jyoti Vidyapeeth, Women's University, Jaipur. In today's session for class BMS 4th year, I am going to discuss management of diabetic ketoacidosis. As you all know, diabetic ketoacidosis is one of the most serious medical emergencies and occurs mostly in insulin dependent diabetics. In non insulin dependent diabetic patients, it is occasionally encountered in newly diagnosed cases or in the presence of infection. Diabetic ketoacidosis is a complex syndrome resulting from interplay of two factors basically. First, severe insulin deficiency, relative or absolute, which may be endogenous or exogenous. Endogenous as in ketone-prone diabetic and exogenous in inadequate administration of insulin in non-diabetic cases. And second factor is increase in circulating anti-insulin hormone, which is growth hormone or cortisol or glucagon or catecholamine. So these two factors occurs in several conditions and they act as precipitating events. So invariably these two factors coexist in a variable degree resulting in hyperglycemia and ketonuria. So diabetic ketoacidosis is characterized by a plasma glucose level more than 250 milligram per dl, arterial pH less than 7.30 or serum bicarbonate level less than 15 milliequivalent per liter and moderate ketonemia with ketouria. So these are the characteristics of ketoacidosis. This is most frequent endocrine emergency. Mortality rate is about 6 to 10%, and as I have told earlier, this is most common in type 1 diabetic mellitus. Now, the precipitating factors due to which this condition often aggravates: sudden stoppage or reduction in the dose of insulin or anti-diabetic drugs. Any infection or any surgery can precipitate it. Digestive disturbances can also cause CKA. Vascular disorders like myocardial infarction, CVD, etc. Endocrinal disorders like hyperthyroidism, acromegaly, conditions of trauma, pregnancies, emotional stress or emotional setbacks, and sometimes drugs like cocaine. These all can act as precipitating factors. Now, the pathophysiology of diabetic ketoacidosis. What happens whenever there is insulin deficiency due to any of the previous causes? Leads to hyperglycemia, osmotic diuresis, leading to dehydration and electrolyte depletion. Activation of glucogenolysis occurs together with gluconeogenesis and lipolysis. There is decreased peripheral glucose utilization. Ketone bodies are produced by the liver from free fatty acids due to lack of insulin. Metabolic acidosis due to exhaustion of bases. So all these physiology occurs whenever there is diabetic ketoacidosis. Now the clinical features which are usually observed. Usually it has a subacute onset. There is occasionally abdominal pain, fruity odor of breath, feeling of nausea or vomiting, polydipsia, polyuria and weakness may be there, signs of dehydration, hypothermia, tachycardia. There may be condition of hyperapnea or small breathing. Then coma. Coma is often preceded by a day or more of polyuria, polydipsia, anorexia, nausea, and vomiting. Now, investigation. Investigations comprises of a triad of hyperglycemia, ketosis, and acidosis. So, the investigations which are usually required: blood glucose, which vary from high to very high. Serum ketone level may be normal. Acidosis is usually present where serum CO2 level is less than 50 milliequivalent per liter. Electrolyte imbalance is there. Blood urea nitrogen is in the range of 20 to 30 milligram per dl due to volume depletion. And if we do the complete blood count, usually WBCs are seen high if there is any associated infection. Similarly, X-ray chest and ECG should also be observed besides serum electrolyte, blood glucose, serum ketone, and urine routine and microscopic examination. Now, management. The broad principles of management are, first of all, replacement of fluid. Replacement of fluid usually done with normal saline solution. This is the fluid of choice in initial stages, as it quickly restores intravascular volume and avoids a rapid fall in extracellular osmolality. If blood sugar levels fall below 250 mg/% or urine sugar falls to 3 level, then these 5% infusion should be substituted to prevent the condition of hypoglycemia. And if hypotension persists, then despite adequate fluid replacement, blood transfusion or plasma expanders such as dextran may be given. Then next step is appropriate insulin therapy. Insulin is required to control hyperglycemia by restoring carbohydrate utilization in muscles and adipose tissue. It is used to block lipolysis. It is required to correct the electrolyte imbalance. A large doses of insulin employed earlier, that is 50 units IV and 50 units IM initially, and then 50 units every 1 to 2 hours until ketosis is reversed, are no longer used. Small dose insulin regimes have been found to be equally effective now, and they constitute the standard form of insulin therapy in diabetic ketoacidosis. So, the therapy is done by giving insulin in a dose of 10 to 15 units as a bolus or 0.15 units per kg IV as an infusion. Then continuous infusion is given in a dose of 125 units. Regular insulin 250 ml NS at a rate of 0.1 unit per kg per hour. When serum glucose lowers to 250 mg per dl, then 5% dextrose is added to IV solution. A decrease in blood glucose level, that is 50 to 75 mg per dl per hour, is appropriate. Infection is treated with antimicrobial agents. Besides this, input-output chart is maintained. Monitoring of vitals, blood glucose, electrolytes, ketones, and urine ketones should be done accordingly. And it is very important step. ECG monitoring is also done to found any kind of potassium toxicity. Bicarbonate are used to combat acidosis. If there is hypokalemia, then infusion of carbonate is done 20 to 40 milliequivalent kcal per hour. This is the amount, this is the quantity of potassium. Insulin therapy, as I have discussed. Now there are some complications which usually seen in case of diabetic ketoacidosis. These are acidosis, hypokalemia, hypoglycemia, hypocalcemia, etc. Then non-metabolic complications like infection, shock, non-cardiogenic pulmonary edema, cerebral edema, and rebound ketoacidosis. These complications are usually observed during the treatment. Sometimes there is irreversible shock condition. Acute tubular necrosis can occur leading to renal failure. Acute myocardial infarction or cerebral thrombosis sometimes occurs. Aspiration pneumonia is also common. Similarly, lactic acidosis is also seen. So these were the complications which are usually observed with treatment of ketoacidosis. Some symptomatic measures which should be done is if patient is comatose, then an adequate airway should be assured. Rice tube should be passed routinely and gastric contents aspirated frequently to avoid the risk of aspiration and reoccurrence of coma during therapy, which usually occurs then IV infusion of 20% mannitol and even administration of IV dextromethasone 8 mg initially, then followed by 4 mg every 6 hours is recommended. So the emergency management of diabetic ketoacidosis is very important, and this is frequently seen condition, and often patients can land to a dangerous situation if not treated well. So this was all about the emergency management of diabetic ketoacidosis. In next lecture, we will be discussing some another emergency management. Namaskar. Have a nice day.